Welcome everyone to today's episode. And I have a wonderful, I believe, a friend across the airways, across Zoom, in both being podcasters. And we were just chatting how it's been over 12 months since we chatted, the last time when I was on Rick's podcast, and it only seems like yesterday. So
I
please
know.
let me introduce you to my wonderful guest today, podcast host, author, and corporate world escapee. That sounds exciting, doesn't it? Denton believes the best meals are served outside and require a passport. Rick is the creator and host of CX Passport, a global customer experience podcast with just a dash of travel talk. Across more than 250 episodes, he has sat down with leaders from around the world, building a reputation for conversations that are thoughtful, relaxed, real, and just fun. The show reaches listeners in more than 100 countries and features guests from every continent except Antarctica, but I do believe he is working on that. He's also expanded with CX Passport Live, where Rick brings live podcasting onto conference floors to help brands turn event moments into lasting content and business impacts. Rick is also the co-host of The Loud Quiet, a podcast he launched with his wife Clancy when they became empty nesters. While started a way to stay connected during a long life, or big, not a long life, but a big life transition, and it is, has grown into a community and a book released in 2026. The Loud Quiet: Love, Laughter, and Life in the Empty Nest. The show reflects a different side of Rick: less boardroom, more living room, honest conversations, and plenty of humor, and just, two people figuring out what comes next together. And I think there's a lot of us, probably are in that, or there's probably some that can't wait to get to that space. Before podcasting, Rick spent 3 decades driving businesses' results and leading customer-focused initiatives inside large organizations. Today, he brings that experience to every conversation, blending business insight with curiosity, storytelling, and a natural ability to put people at ease. Outside the studio, you will usually find Rick hiking, traveling with Clancy, or planning the next trip that proves his belief is true, that those meals are best served outside and require a passport. Welcome, Rick. Thank you so much for joining me today.
What a lovely introduction. Michelle, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be on your show today.
And now tell our audience, where are you actually situated at the moment?
So, this moment, I am in a suburb of Dallas, Texas, USA. So, if someone happens to know it, it's Frisco, but most folks would know Dallas from a
Yeah.
global perspective.
Yes, yes, I've been there a few times. I love the Macy store. I've actually used my bags that I bought at Macy's yesterday. I was training at one of my clubs, and I thought, I love this bag. It's got a filigree pattern. But it was that store at Macy's in Dallas, because it was I'd missed my connecting flight, and
Hmm.
at that store when I was traveling up the escalator, and I heard over the PA system, and it was something that went along the lines, we'd just like to do a shout out to John in menswear for providing excellent customer service. And I sort of stopped and I thought, wow, this, and I don't, maybe it's something that you hear quite often, but I never heard a company actually shouting out on their PA system, acknowledging somebody who had just done a really great job because the customer had gone up and spoken. So does that happen often?
I no, most certainly not. Like, I'm hearing your story and I'm thinking, boy, I don't think that I've ever heard that before. But the example you're telling there, how much did that cost that company?
Absolutely.
$0.
Yeah.
How much effort was that? Really not all that much. It's stunning how some of the most simple customer experiences and employee experiences are really easy and cheap, and yet companies tend to overlook those sometimes in favor for the new, the shiny, the technology, the
Yeah.
whatever is trendy, as
Yeah.
opposed to just the good old basic human element of experience.
Yeah. And that stuck with me. And that was, 2019. And here we are in 2020. And I still remember it because it was a shock. Maybe it was just a manager on that day.
Maybe so. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what is good there, though, is it tells you a little bit about the culture, that either that manager felt renegade enough to just break the rules,
Yeah.
or that manager had been given the freedom of, hey, find a way to do something like that.
Yes.
Because I will say
Yeah.
that I haven't heard that in other stores, and it may be
Yeah.
just a wonderful coincidence.
Mm,
That flexibility, that empowerment, those big fancy words that we hear, really,
mm.
it just comes down to, did that human feel like that they were free enough to celebrate another human in a public
Yeah.
way like that?
Yes, yeah. And I think what a wonderful way for that staff member to feel,
Hmm.
that customer was nice and they said they'd say to the manager, I did a good job, but they actually
Yeah,
heard it. And I felt so good because I had just come from buying my travel on luggage because I'm always a big
right.
and got multiple things at Macy's store in Dallas. But I felt joy at that stage. I'm thinking, wow, I hope I get to meet John, or or that interaction that I had just had with the
Hmm.
people in the luggage department were just as good. And I thought, this must be this whole shop is just wonderful stuff. So there you go, something so simple, and as you said, didn't cost anything, but it made a massive impact. Yeah.
Clearly,
It did,
absolutely.
yes, yeah. So look, let's just chat about because you being the CX passport, working with large organizations for decades, you claim that some people now say, oh, customer experience is dying, particularly now with all this AI stuff. They're both right and they are wrong. But I want to understand what's dying and what's not going anywhere. Rick, in your idea.
Well, the words customer experience.
Mm,
We will always have customers and we will always have experiences. And
mm,
so that's not going away. I think what's dying is the branding of
mm.
customer experience, because we of those of us who are in the CX world, I believe, have done a very poor job of tying customer experience ideas, concepts,
Mm,
projects to actual tangible dollars. And companies therefore have gotten fatigued of the CX brand. And
mm,
so the branding of it, I believe, is something that is going away. But the actual fact that a company has customers and that those customers want to have experiences will not go away. You mentioned in the world of AI. That's a great example of something that companies are starting, not starting, how silly to say that, right? Have embraced.
mm,
And there are definitely ways that those have been used to improve the customer's experience.
mm.
There is a particular brand that I use in my business that helps me generate the newsletters that go out to my customers. Their bot is one of the best bots that I have ever engaged with. And it has made things so much simpler. When I have a question, I'm able to engage with this AI interaction and it works.
Right.
And the moment that I need someone that it doesn't work, it's a very easy and simple transition to that human. So there are definitely
Wow.
ways that it's going forward where the technology is
Mm,
absolutely helping us, because the customer, me, and the experience that I needed isn't going away.
mm.
It's that move to what are the tools and the techniques that can help us. Now, we could spend a lot of time talking about how AI is used to destroy the customer's experience, but in general, right, that idea of being
Yeah.
used to help that customer and that experience is a positive one.
Mm. And it also shows you with that example that the bot's there, it does its job, and it can work absolutely perfectly. And some people, that's all they need, like, boom, or off
Mhm.
with the next thing. But where you found, oh, I just needed that little bit of help, something just wasn't working here, but they had that immediate attention from a human. And that's
Mhm.
what creates that really great experience, isn't it?
Mhm.
What you've said there, oh, look, this is the best bot I've always used, but it wasn't just the bot. It was the bot and the
Right.
person, and it's making that connection when you talk about that experience, and particularly in hospitality. It's great for all the back end things that people need to
Absolutely.
do. But what it is allowing is for the staff now to be out on the floor more, to be connect more, to have those conversations, to actually spend time looking at that person in the eye and creating those experiences,
Yes.
using their initiative instead of worrying about, oh my gosh, I've got to fill in that report or I've got to do this or whatever it might
Hmm.
be. So
I,
it
I
does.
I remember I was consulting for an audio electronics company. I'm probably not free to speak of the brand. And one of the challenges that they had with their retail stores is they wanted to put their managers and their team on the floor, the front of house, if you will,
Yes.
as much as possible. But there is so much business reporting, so much of that kind of back of house work that needed to be done. Technology is a great example of what you just described, that the more of that back of house that can be removed to allow people to be front of house, then that is valuable. Where companies get it wrong is, awesome, I can now slash all those people because they don't need to be doing that much back of
Yes.
house. And that is a wonderful saccharine sugar high hit that you'll get. But over time, you will find that your customers will have no interest in doing business with your brand because they
Yeah.
can't get what they need done in the front of the house.
Yeah. And it comes down to those people, that people connection. And you're right, so businesses are thinking to themselves, oh, we're going to save so much money. We better get rid of, Jack, Fred, and Mary and, Julie now. And then they'll realize, hey, wait on, our business isn't growing.
Yeah.
Our sales are declining. Why is that? Because, oh, resources, the AI is doing it, but it's lost those people. You talk about dashboards, and we all know about net promoter scores and how great they look. And, myself, I've got my large research company here. We've been going through the process over 12 months now, writing, our proprietary program 2.0. We wrote it 25 years ago, and it was phenomenal. Trying to replicate that, we've found we don't have the cool coders that we did back 25 years ago, but that's a whole nother story. But what is it that leaders are actually doing wrong when they look at all that data? Because I know I've got clients who will just look at the stats. And 25 plus years ago, Rick, I'd go in there because, as you know, I love to talk. And so I'm a qualitative research, and that's just quite. And I look at these numbers, I think, oh, this is like doing my head in. And they go, oh, Michelle, and I'm going to be rather gender, focused here. Hospitality, majority of them are male, and I'd be in there and they go, I just want the stats, Michelle. I just want the numbers. But I said, the numbers aren't telling you anything. It's just a
Right.
score. You need this information that goes with it. And I have, made sure over all these decades that they now see the light, and that's what they want, that information. But we still need that data. But what does it generally acting on it look like? Because some people just do it because the board tell them or the CEO tell them. But what does it actually look like to you when they look at that data and they do something with it?
Well, actually, what you just said there is the answer. The question is actually the answer to that question, and
Mm.
that is when they do something with it.
Yes.
And I'm not here to be anti-stats. I'm not here to be anti-dashboard. It is remarkably naive to say, oh, we need to listen to every customer and understand. No, that's the reason why you have aggregation, why you have data, why you have statistics.
Yes.
But if you are just applauding in that 5-minute customer section in your monthly review meeting when the scores go up, or shedding a brief little tear when the scores go down, and then you do nothing, that's worthless. It makes, again, kind of that sugar high. Oh, yay, we talked about the customer. The
Mm.
customer was at our meeting. Barf. It's when you do something with it, and when you do something meaningful and impactful with it. Back to what I was talking about, how CX in the past has gotten in a little bit of trouble, that we may have focused on the things that might have felt good, or
Mm.
the things that we thought might be impactful to the customer, or were even, I'll just say it, like kind or nice or felt friendly to the
Yes.
customer.
Mm.
But the actual do something with it is do something that is meaningful enough to the customer that if they knew what you were doing, they would say, I'll pay for that. And
Yeah.
that's the way of the customer effectively saying, yes, I'm going to continue to shop with you, or to transact with you, or to give you my hard earned wallet
Mm.
because you've made some sort of change. So that's a long way of saying it's not just the action, it's understanding action that has impact is when a company has really got it right.
Yes. Yeah. And it's that impact, not just on the customer, but that direct customer and the staff. But do you feel it also impacts those that are others that are around them that may not even know, other customers?
Well, certainly with the I will tell somebody about a good experience. I will tell somebody about a bad experience. My family, we just got back from Spain, and that is 10 days of travel experiences that I have had. The only thing that has kept me from telling more stories is that I start to run out of breath and my throat gets dry. Both the delightful, and then isn't it funny how we just spend way too much time talking about the things that
Yeah.
went wrong? And there are several
Yes.
companies that are on my S list now because they they did very poorly by us. And so yeah, it'll impact those around because the telling of the story and the repeating of the story
Mm.
will absolutely take that forward.
Mm. But I think even in the moment, where I know in hospitality, I've been, waiting for a coffee and, something's gone wrong with the machine, and you can have the barista who keeps their head down and they're banging pots and just doing it. But then it's the barista who looks up and just goes, look, I'm terribly sorry. The beans have just run out. I'm just going to go and do this. And then
Yeah.
and they have a little bit of a joke while they're doing that. But look, hey, have a look at the cake display. And I'm thinking, it's not only just the person that they're
Yes.
interacting, but I know I'm behind going, okay, now I'm not going to be start huffing and puffing because I found I huff and puff a lot in my head, but it actually comes out loud, Rick. I've realized. So my daughter will go, Mom, and I think, oh, did you hear that? So I
Yeah.
sort of think, it impacts the other people around them because they're actually communicating, A, what's happening, which, yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time, but that to me is part of that customer experience, don't you think?
Ooh. And I love your example there because let's talk about the customers that are surrounding that. You
Mm,
get this a lot in the airline industry that if something goes right, weather delay, something like that,
mm.
I'm not talking about catastrophically wrong, just some kind of operational delay or something like that. Communication is so key.
Yes.
But I think in the example that you used in the barista, I've seen this go very poorly in the airline industry, where sometimes it takes an incredible amount of understanding your customer and what the customer is
Mm.
feeling at that moment to know how far do I lean into the jokey side
Yeah. Yeah.
and how far do I lean into the, hey, we understand
Mm.
this sucks. We're working as hard as we, and just providing information
Mm.
because when I'm on a 2.5 hour delay, I really don't want the flight attendant singing a cutesy little song. It
Yeah.
pisses me off when that happens. You're not making it better. You're making it worse. And so your example, the barista, it's like, hey, hey, take a look at the cakes, that kind of stuff. That's the barista that understands, okay, this line, my audience, basically as an entertainer, I know that I can do that.
Mm.
But if it's something like, I've just poured hot coffee on your blouse and I have hurt you and stained your clothes,
Mm.
being jokey at that point probably isn't the right solution. So it is that understanding the customer and
Yes.
communicating, but communicating in a way that the customer wants to be communicated.
Yeah. And so, yes, I'm not going to have a nice joke if I know I've got coffee all
Yeah.
over me.
Oh, look, haha, I'm scalding,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
sure, great, snog in the nose. It's more of the fact that they've got to be able to understand to read the customer, don't they?
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
think that's where you can train somebody to make the coffee or do whatever their skill set is. But it's that intuitive understanding, and
Mhm.
we can show people. I'm not saying we can train them, but I think when a person first starts, in the hospitality industry, they don't, they may be a quieter person, and we build that confidence within them,
Mhm.
and that empowerment, as you said before, that
Ah, there, yeah. Oh,
have that little bit of a joke, or you can
yeah.
you can stand up and say, look, I'm terribly sorry that that coffee spilled. I'll go and replace it straight away. They don't have to go off and seek three permissions from supervisors, team leader, and a duty manager to actually do
Yeah.
it. Mm.
Yeah, as opposed to pulling out, here in the U.S., pulling out $5 and just
Yeah.
saying, "I'm sorry. This hopefully this covers your dry cleaning. If not, please come back and let us know what the actual cost." Yeah, that kind of stuff. You're right. The empowerment and the freedom, not
Mm.
just the programmatic and policy freedom, the cultural freedom to do it
Yes.
as well. And you and
Yes.
I have definitely interacted with companies that we can tell that the human on the other side really wants to help us,
Mm.
but their hands are tied either from a
Yes.
policy or from a cultural constraint.
Yes, yeah. And it's a shame because they're the one that's getting impacted because they're dealing with a real person who's got emotion, who's now gone from, I was just coming for a coffee and now, the poor barista here, and now it's just exploded. And you're sitting there going, I'd really love to help, but I can't. I'm thinking, gee, all you
Yeah.
got to do is like replace the coffee. And so it now escalates. And it's that
Yeah.
that frontline person, and that's where we hear about resilience and all these sorts of, but
Mhm.
it is ensuring that we support our team. So when we look at leaders, do you feel that sometimes they don't actually have a real idea of what that guest experience is? I mean, they've got an idea, it looks great on paper. This is what the steps will be from when we greet the guest on the telephone to when they come through the front door, when we're sitting down at the restaurant, the hotel, blah blah. But you know what? I find sometimes they have actually never done it themselves. They've never actually gone
Yeah.
through their own system. There's the plugs, the clutter. You've got some examples here. The phone on the nightstand. I find,
Mhm.
trying to find a PowerPoint near your nightstand is
Mhm.
unbelievable. I have a CPAP machine, you can never find a plug.
Hmm.
They're all hidden away, or they're behind the bed head, or they just
Right.
go straight to the wall. And it's those simple things. And I'm thinking, or for a child's nebulizer, or do these people
Hmm.
actually sit in that room and think, am I experiencing it from the customer side? Hmm.
And it's so I both expect the leadership to get out into the field, and I also sympathize a bit with the reality is they do have roles and jobs and responsibilities that are the reason they exist is because there are things that they need to do. But if it's kind of like before, if you skew one side versus the
Mm.
other side, you can't go to those extremes. Your hotel example is one that there's so many times we walk into a hotel room and we're thinking, how could anyone in leadership think this is okay? Like the amount of crap, like you said, that's on the desk. The phone, I guess maybe it has to stay there for safety. I mean, when's the last time you've actually used a hotel phone? But maybe it's
They're all
required to be there.
dirty.
Alex, I'll accept that one, but then clearly the marketing and promotion team said, "Well, let's put this flyer in there. Let's put this stand in there. Let's put this thing in there." And I'm like, I really just want to be able to set my earplugs on there. Yeah, it's not that big of a thing. And the power cord situation. There's one that is really kind of getting at me in the hotel space. Luggage has now many people have moved to the hard-sided luggage.
Mm.
And when you go to a hotel room to open hard-sided luggage, it opens all the way up.
Yes.
How many hotel rooms still have the little fabric one, the thing that stands out, and it's got that little lever on the back? So
Yes.
you can't open your suitcase on that luggage stand. So then you're looking around, well, which desk do I put it on? Do I put my stuff on the floor? And if any of the leadership team traveled with just a usual hard-sided luggage, they'd realize, oh, wait,
Yes.
that luggage rack doesn't work anymore.
Yes.
Let's come up with a
Yes.
luggage. And I have yet to be in a hotel room that has solved for the luggage rack. So listeners, and let me appeal to your listeners. There's a really good business idea out there. If y'all will design a luggage rack, you can take over the world.
And I'll give you another tip. Replace the batteries every month, whether they need to or not, in the remote control. I don't know how many, it doesn't matter whether it's a 10-star
Very true.
hotel or a 2-star backpackers. I don't, well, not that I've ever been into one, but a country motel. I get there, I'm all
I
set up.
have.
Yeah, so you're better than Mal. No, not better. You're more yeah, you're more outgoing. I'm just no. I like the
I'm
stars.
dirtier. I'm grungier. Are those the words you're looking for?
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to be nice here. I don't mind outside, but I'm not sleeping under those stars.
Oh.
But I don't know how many times I get into my pajamas. I'm all set up. I'm in bed. Yeah,
Mhm.
and this is on the phone. But another thing is beside your bed is those whopping big iPads. And you're supposed to go onto there and you're supposed to choose your dining, choose your television, you get it on, and then you still go back to the remote control and it doesn't work. So now you've got to ring
Yeah.
Bob and you think to yourself, where's reception? How do I ring reception? There is a phone, but nobody picks up because you don't actually know what number to ring. Have you noticed that now? So they
Yeah.
leave the
Yeah.
phone in the room, but it's so old, it goes, number to ring reception, you can't see it. So you're going 9, 0. What do you think it would be? And then you think, well, that's not
So
working.
you ultimately hit a combination of numbers that results in the police and fire department showing up. So, and it all comes down to what you're saying is
Crazy.
it's not it is so easy for us to sit on a podcast here and say
Yes.
leaders need to be out in the field, and it's true, and we understand though it's not possible all the time. It just I think the reverse is true. It can't be not possible all the
Yes.
time. You've
Yes.
got to get out there at least some of the time so that we can get some batteries in those remote controls and places to put our luggage.
Because you know what I did in that last hotel? I actually used my mobile and I rang the hotel. And I said, I'm in room so and so. And they said, oh, Mrs. Pascoe, why did you use the phone? Because I said, I didn't know what to ring, but that's
I
all
don't
right.
know. That's funny.
But it's that, we see those shows like Undercover Boss and we think, oh, that's a bit of fun. You don't have to go undercover. You've just got to go in there. And as you said, go in there with a suitcase, try that. Sit on the
Mhm.
bed. What's it like? Do they need to be updating? Looking
Mhm.
around at that nightstand, look in the bathroom, those accessories. It's just using your eyes. Or,
Mhm.
and I think this is what's really important, is listening to those frontline team members who've said to you repeatedly the same thing. They need batteries, or that luggage rack is not good. They don't they don't always get an option to be heard, some people, do they?
I think that's actually that's one of the ways that is a bit of a hack for a leader that can't be out in the field all the
Mm,
time, setting up a real program, not an ad hoc,
no.
but setting up a real program to where Frontline can provide that input and that there be some place that that input is received,
Yes.
understood, and acted upon. And not everything that comes in will be acted upon, appropriately
Mm.
prioritized. What's the impact of the guest? That front line, they're the ones living it. I am was floored on our flight back. We did business class over, and then we did economy coming home, and four seats in the middle. And so, what do you do with your luggage? You usually put it in the space in front of you, but
Mm.
there's four seats, but only three spaces.
Oh.
I guarantee flight attendants hear about that all the time. Like, where do I put my luggage? Where do I put my backpack? Where? And so, if there were a place for the flight attendant to say, "What the heck?" Why? And feed that into the leadership of that airline,
Yes.
that as a structured program to where it is absorbed, understood, prioritized, and acted upon,
Mm.
is a way to overcome the fact that a leader simply cannot be on every flight, every time, staying in every hotel room,
Yes.
every
Yes.
location all the
Mm.
time.
It's listen, that was one thing that like, a number of years ago I did a course at the Disney Institute in California, and that was one of those examples there. There was one of the directors, and she was saying every, I don't think it was every month, it was probably every couple of months, she selected just randomly seven people off that particular ride. The people that
Mm.
worked in the shop, the people that were helping people with the, tickets, the buzzer going onto the ride, blah, blah, blah. And she'd sit down and she said, the first thing I had to do was sit on my hands and close my mouth and not interrupt by going, we've tried that, done that, done that. But she said, the things that we learned, because they'd be talking about the wait times, or this cup doesn't work, or
Mm.
this straw, and all the pollution and things. And it was those little things that I took away from that. Doesn't matter how big a company you are, is that listening. You have got to listen to your frontline team, no matter
Right.
how big or how small you are, because they can
Mm.
make a big difference to your business growth. You work with individuals as well as organizations, Rick. For someone who's built their career in hospitality, maybe in, that middle management or operations, who is watching that AI change everything around them and then wondering whether their role will exist in 5 years? Because I think that, that is a genuine concern for a lot of people. So what do you tell them? What are your thoughts on this?
I have a lot of thoughts, and they're having a hard time being distilled into something coherent here. One thought is you've heard this phrase that AI is not going to take your job. Someone who understands how to use AI is going to take your job.
Mm,
And so, what I would say to someone in that situation is if your company is bringing in these technology tools, no different than any other technology that has been brought into the company,
mm,
is understand how you can use it to better your ability to perform the role that you've been asked to do for that company. And explore how those tools might help you do other things for the company. And so
mm,
I'm not talking in a customer experience sort of way here. I'm just talking to if I were speaking to somebody at the early stages of their career, and it would
mm.
be just learn how to take those tools, AI or whatever it is, and understand how you can leverage them to then do better by what the company needs.
Yes.
To those and to those that are worried that their jobs may be going away, well, yeah. I hate to say that, but that's true of almost any technology
Mm,
change that has come along.
yes.
However, at least so far, every one of those technology changes, while they have been significantly and in some case disastrously disruptive, it has resulted in more jobs. And so that's why I would say to the folks is understand what your you know what? There's someone who said the first thing that anybody should read when they come into a company is their company's annual report to see what the business goals are.
Yes.
And so if you understand those business goals, then understand how your role and how the application of these new technologies can advance those goals will serve you well as we go through this technology
Mm.
transformation right now.
Yes, yeah. And look, that's a good point. Read that annual report, get to see what it actually is, and bring it to life. How
Yeah.
can how can you work with that, not work against it? And you know, it's been going on for thousands of years where we've all said, oh, here we are pushing a cart, and then somebody makes a wheel. Oh, well, the pushers of the cart are, not going to have a job, and things move on, and that's just a part of life. But it's not. It's looking about how can it work with you and for you.
Right.
not just
Right.
sit there in the belly complaining that it's against me all the time.
Well, and let's use like so my little example of the annual report. Let's be honest. Does anybody actually want to go read an annual report? No, it's
Oh,
torture. So
really?
you know what you can do?
Whack it
Download
through
it and put it.
AI.
Well, yeah, run it through AI and say, hey, here's my role. How can
Yeah.
I best apply your technology and this annual report in my role to advance the company? I realize that's a bit meta and a bit facetious, but there is some truth to using the tools to help you understand how to use the tools themselves.
Yes, yeah, I love that idea. I think there'll be, I think that's probably the biggest tip out of this. I mean, it's been a wonderful interview, but it's probably the biggest tip. But actually, I was speaking to a lady yesterday, and she was saying, she is leaving her position. She's starting up her own business, and she's been in this role for quite a number of years, and she does a heck of a lot of work. And so she thought, I'm just going to do a brain dump. So she brain dumped it into ChatGPT, all the things. She said, I went through all my emails to make sure that I had put together collectively everything I had done, and it worked. And she presents it. Well, first off, GPT said to her at the end, "You're phenomenal. This is a job for three people." She goes, "Oh, thanks." But she actually passed her boss a 13-page job description.
How funny. That's awesome.
But it was just taking that moment to go, well, what do I actually do?
I love
Then
the sick
provide it.
the the sycophant part of ChatGPT that you've described there. That's a part of why I fired that one as my LLM of choice. I have instructions in there that say you're my colleague, not my lackey. So please stop doing that. However, the point of distilling her role into something that can be explained. Companies are going to be using LLM and other technologies to help craft their performance
Yes,
reports, and there's some issues with that. However, that's a weapon that is available for the employee as well, is to
yes,
use that
yes.
to present them in the best light when it
Yeah.
comes to their
Mm.
performance evaluations.
I just thought it was a really great idea because you could
Yeah.
sit there and particularly if there's no changeover, no transfer between the two staff members, at least it's written down there, not just a checkpoint, but this is what it actually works into. So yes, it can work on our side beautifully. You've mentioned off air and a few things that I've been reading about the polycrisis. Now, is a concept most hospitality leaders probably haven't even heard or named, Rick, but they are living inside it every day. It's the cost of, I'm going to read some notes here, cost of living pressure, staffing shortages, that post COVID behavioral shifts, the economic uncertainty, which is globally. What is that one thing most hospitality leaders are getting wrong in how they respond to that intersecting crises, and what should they be doing instead?
It's hard to distill into one thing. I would say that what I'm seeing more of, and what more folks are talking about, is a very short term view of things. So, how can I reduce costs by X so that I can make this quarter's numbers?
Yes,
And I don't want to create some sort of Pollyanna. Guess what? Businesses are in business to make profit. And so,
yes.
if cost cutting needs to be a part of it, then cost cutting needs to be a part of it. I think the issue, though, is cost cutting for the sake of just reducing costs, as opposed to how does this then set us up for growth
Mm,
in the future is where I think, especially in the hospitality space, folks are really perhaps getting it wrong. Something that I'm seeing a lot of in the hospitality space too is if certainly in the U.S. we are seeing a kind of wealth disparity taking place,
mm.
and I'm seeing it in sports teams, I'm seeing it in hospitality, where there is a race to focus on a segment of the population that is finding its wealth increasing. And I'm
Yes,
not here to get into the politics of anything or
yes,
like,
yes.
but there will be such a focus on that group that I think you're actually going to start to see some saturation there.
Mm,
And the perhaps more moderate, the more budget hospitality options may be getting overlooked for
mm.
some of those. Now, I'm speaking a little, this is a bit kind of, I'm sort of pondering here. But I think that this race to the high net worth individual makes sense economically. The problem is it's making sense for a lot of brands,
Yes.
and therefore focusing on perhaps the moderate and the budget segments of hospitality could be in a less, I won't say untapped, but a less tapped area going forward.
Mm. And looking at what those different generations are looking for. as well.
Oh,
You can have these beautiful luxury experiences, and I've had some wonderful people on my podcast from various luxury experiences, and they sound wonderful. But I always think, where is that next level? And it doesn't have to be the backpacker, but there's got to be something in there in the middle for the majority of people globally that are seeking, time away from work or have an
yeah.
adventure, whatever it might be. Mm,
Well, and you are seeing, and I've seen this to somewhat of success. Now I'm in my 50s, so it's
mm,
less appealing to me. But you're seeing a lot of the newer brands. Not they're no longer new, but
mm,
newer brands where the room takes a real significant back seat. Like even in there's the almost sparse
mm,
features in there. It's really small. I just don't want to mention brands, but where they really diminish the focus on the hotel room,
mm.
but then really over index on the common areas to make them
Right.
cool, to make
Yeah.
them uh, uh, lots of great music and exciting bars and good restaurants and that sort of thing. And the idea is to get people out of their rooms into this common space. Now,
Mm.
the thing is, that doesn't always appeal to the 52-year-old who's on his wait, I'm 53. Ha! The 53-year-old who is on a bit on the sixth day of a business trip.
Yes,
But
yes.
there is that space. And so I bring that example up to say, to your point of the generations, it's not always just generation, it's also
Mm.
just traveler style and
Yes,
traveler
yeah.
segment.
Mm,
That being aware and responsive to the different traveling needs
mm.
has served several brands very well.
Yes, yeah. And it's quite interesting, as you're saying, when they're minimizing the room, there's less in there to get them out, to get them socializing. And, we hear about Gen Z spending so much time, with a phone or with groups that they may never get to see, but they want that feeling of belonging. So having them go out and have conversations with people, and it's not just Gen Z, it's all of us, because I know myself, you go to
Mhm.
a nice hotel and you're sitting in your room and you go back and you just watch the reruns of the Brady Bunch or something that's been on television for 100 years, and you think, oh gosh, and then you go downstairs, and if it's somewhere where that they've created that makes you feel comfortable, doesn't matter
Mhm.
what gender you are or what your age is, or if you're there by yourself with a partner or a group of friends, it's collectively making you feel that I've made the right choice coming to this hotel. I feel like I
Yeah.
belong. And then whether it's that hotel or if they're a part of a chain, to me, that's that hotel chain that you're going to seek out in the future
Right.
from that one experience, isn't it?
It is, and I think that, I'm not I'm a individual person, but
Mm,
I'm not an individual segment of traveler. There are
yes.
when I am driving with my daughter back from Arizona to Texas,
Mm,
the overnight, I want something that is easy off the highway. It is
yes.
functional, the fast check in, get to the room. I don't need a whole lot. But
Yes.
when we were in Barcelona, I kind of wanted a nice experience. I
Yes.
wanted a good concierge. I wanted a nice bar. Not
Mm.
that we went to it, but it had a three-star Michelin restaurant in there, right? Those are the kind of things that you want
You got a
in
photo
certain
going.
moments. Yeah. Yeah, pretending I'm going in there. Now, I need a heck of a lot more food on my plate than what they serve at three-star Michelin restaurants. But that kind of a hotel would suck for an
Yeah.
overnight on a road
Yeah.
trip back from Arizona. So this idea, I think it goes back to what we were saying at the very beginning, that is understanding your customers' needs
Mm,
and placing those in the locations and the moments when your customers need those,
yeah.
whether it is a hotel style or whether it is a service recovery moment
Mm,
or if it is a new idea around experiences. It all comes down to how well is a company listening to their customer and to the
yes.
employees that are closest to the customer.
Yeah, definitely. Look, Rick, I thank you so much for our conversation today. As always, it's been lovely to catch up with you and just for you to share your experiences, both as a traveler, but also as an expert in CX. And I look forward to continuing our conversations. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to share with my guests?
Well, we talk about the changing of a customer. Well,
Mm,
you mentioned the podcast that my wife and I
yes.
have created called The Loud Quiet. Well, we also have a book out, and that stage when you talk about the transformation that a person goes through as they enter the empty nest, I
Mm,
think that's something that a lot of the customer experience things that we are talking about really sort of apply to that as well, in the sense that you may think you know your customer and then
mm,
something happens and they go through a massive transformation. Well,
yeah.
that's what's happening on the loud quiet with the with empty nest living, as well as Clancy and I have gone through our transformation, we realize there's so many folks that are just struggling and just trying to survive that phase when really we want them to help thrive in that phase.
Yeah.
And that idea of now we're listening to quote our customer called the empty nester and
Mhm.
helping guide them through that. So it is true. CX is sort of true in the business world, but it's also true in just our human everyday
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
And Clancy and I are really trying to live to that with the loud quiet.
It sounds wonderful. So I'll put the links for that as well as the CX passport in our show notes. But once again, Rick, thank you so much for your insights and knowledge, and take care.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute delight for me.
Thanks. Bye.